before, so we're going to see how this works. Good morning, everyone. This is Marziti with the Morning Prep Show. Signet does his, and he does a good full comprehensive. Mine is more about what am I going to trade today. So let's see what we can come up with here. We're going to start by looking at financial juice. And we have U.S. Red Book at 8.55. We need to be aware of that. And then, now this is going to be one of these days. Excuse me, sinuses are running a bit this morning. This, for whatever reason, we have got Fed speakers here, well, that's EC, European Central Bank kind of thing here, but okay, and I was thinking there was a bunch of others speaking today. I could be wrong, but at any rate, one thing to bear in mind when a Fed speaker speaks, a single slip up or misstatement by a Fed speaker can send the markets just going wherever. The algos are watching what they say. Believe it or not, the algos are live interpreting their, speech to text. And if they say something wrong, you can actually watch a big jerk in the market as a result of it. We have Red Book at 8:55 Eastern. The Red Book is a report on retail sales and how the retail sales are doing. It's shown as yellow, but again, if it's really off or really extremely great, that could be an impact. We got some reports at 9. According to Financial Juice here, though, they really are into this consumer CB confidence thing. We can hit the search. Well, all right, fine, maybe not. Anyway, well, let me get rid of it now. Oh, it opened a new page. Forget that. Anyway, so we do have, understand that the market makers, the institutions, I should say, the institutions, they plan individually a move. Now, they're competing against one another, so they don't share their plans with one another, but they do kind of more or less agree upon a time of when they're going to make their move. And so usually once a day, we're looking for that one event throughout the day where they're going to make their move. And so, Financial Juice here has looked back historically and said that this report at 10 o'clock Eastern is traditionally when that move happens. So, okay. So now we kind of get an idea about that. Let's, yeah, we kind of want to be aware of the Red Book at 8:55. We want to be aware that the 9 o'clock Bowman starts speaking, and, these kind of things. We have housing at 9 and so on. 10 o'clock is what Financial Juice is saying is the big one. So we do have some events on the calendar. Let's take a look at the charts overall. Now, I'm starting on the 1 hour. We see now, Signet and I talked this morning. He talked about it, the central pivot point was wider. Now, that's not the same as traditional floor pivot points, because you'll see that my central pivot points say they are tighter. Let's just kind of zoom in on that on the ES. See that mine say they're tighter. Now, I'm using a different type of pivot point. I'm using the traditional floor pivot points. Not saying that one is more superior than the other. You just have to adapt your trading style. As you add it, you learn to use it, and that, that kind of thing with your trading style. So let's take a quick summary of the board. Crude oil, the pivot points are wider. So that tells me that while we do see on my chart here, white is the central pivot point. This red line is resistance 1. We did move to it, but I'm not expecting, what I am expecting here on crude oil, we've made a significant low yesterday. We've and we took out a bunch of lows there. Overnight, we took out a bunch of highs. My best guess here is we're probably going to do a 50% retrace and come right back into this middle zone right here. But that's a guess. As you can notice here on the hourly, IV is lower. The ES. So we did see this spike down yesterday, but it did not take out either one of these two. Let's kind of zoom in there. It did not take out either one of these two, so they ran it down. They got slapped back into their place. Choppity, 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 chop a lot. Did hit resistance 1 on the pivot. Overnight, kind of went down a little bit, and then now back up. On the hourly, IV is lower than normal. Gold. Again, kind of like the ES here, we did, make a run south, didn't do anything significant. Looks very similar to the ES. We did come up. We did not hit the resistance 1. The pivot points tightened up here, so we can see that it was easier to hit resistance 1, come back down to the central pivot, go back up. IV on the hourly is up. Now that's very nice because that tells me there's more chaos, there's more movement into the in the day. There's more chaos in the day. We already see that it's moved 57% of its ADR for the day, so it's moving around. So that's interesting to note. So we might be coming back looking at gold a little bit closer. Now remember that the NASDAQ is going to be probably about 98% comparable to the ES. You can see just like the ES, it hit that R1. Just like the ES, it came down, did not take out these lows. So the NASDAQ really just the same thing as the ES here. What do we expect to see here? Well, let me get my tool. Well, actually, I already have my tool selected. If we go with this as the low, we look at this at the high. I'm looking at that 50% pullback or halfback. You can see that we did, in fact, hit it. This candle right here did come back to that 50%. Well, what does that often tell us? Well, if we're looking at, like an ICT play, then that would tell us we had a low, we had a high, we had a 50% retrace. We should be looking to go long from here. But understand that the ICT strategies, while they still are valid strategies, they don't have the success rate that they did 1 or 2 years ago. Why? Because when it first came out, it was the bomb. Everybody loved it, and it was working just over and over and over. And then the markets adapted to it. They figured it out. They learned it. They realized people were using it, and the markets adapted to it. And so all of a sudden, ICT success rates started to plummet. That's where the fair value gap was really made popular. So could we go back north? Yes, we could. If we kind of zoom back, we do kind of have this upward sloping trend here, a series of higher lows. But notice here that we have not taken out this high. These two highs are, we did just barely take out. If I hold my candle here and look left of these candles, you can see that we ran up here, we grabbed liquidity. So we took out those stops and then we rolled back down. So we've got a mixed signal here on the NASDAQ. Looking at the Russell, Russell a little different here. We did take out, so here's yesterday's low. We didn't take it out today, but yesterday you can see that we did in fact take out these lows. Then we came back in. But remember, when you get a big candle like this, what follows a big move is choppity, 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 chop. You know, sometimes they will do a continuation, but a lot of times they just end up chopping roughly. We do have wicks out of here, but notice that the bulk of the closes are inside this big bar. Jeremy would call that a control bar. I would really wait at this point here to see what happens as far as the overnight session and all that kind of stuff. The Asian session, you can see, was negative, but then we came right back around and came back in. The London session, as we can see, is inside this bar. Looking at all the markets, major markets combined, as you can see, I use, well, go away, there we are. I use the ES NASDAQ Russell, and you can use these same things in Trading View, but obviously you have to change the format because in Thinkorswim we use /ES, where Trading View you'll use ES one exclamation kind of stuff. And of course you have to have a subscription to all the data. But what are we seeing in the overnight session and yesterday? Here's yesterday's session. Remember, not all of these are, some of these are only regular New York session tickers up here, like the Dixie and all that kind of stuff. Hence the reason we have the after hours gray boxes. But any rate, here's yesterday's range. Again, we took out that high, and we have rolled back in. If I do the from here to here, we have come right back to that 50% line, which also is the pivot point, is the central, my pivot, the floor pivot point, just right below it. Let me get this off the screen. So again, we're coming back to a decision point. So where does that leave us? Well, we can start now to zoom down onto the 15 and just kind of get an idea. We were looking at gold as the mover. So we were looking at gold as the mover possibly. Let's take possibly a little bit more of a closer look at gold here on the 15. Whoops, wrong way. And let's move it like that. Asian session and the initial market. The Asian session runs from eight. I'm just going to throw the box on here to get the time, to 2. And so now let's adjust the box. Activate the drawing. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There's the Asian session. Why do we care about the Asian session? The Asian session oftentimes can be a crystal ball as to what the regular market is going to do today. Let's first of all take a look at where it opened and closed. It opened right here on the pivot point, and ironically, it closed essentially right in the same spot. This is not very helpful, as it did run, but it did make a nice, great run to the north, but the main thing it did was it just took out a lot of liquidity from the previous day. If we zoom back one, we can see, though, this upward trend. That's interesting. We can kind of see we are stalling because we did have, if you kind of imagine, and I'll just draw it in, this line, let's say maybe from here to here. We did kind of break. We're chopping on this trend line now. That is a lower trend line. So I would say in the case of gold, if we close below the central pivot point, the core pivot point, and then start to break south of that, that would be a short. Let's just kind of zoom in a little bit more on that. See how we closed below this line. And certainly could have taken this short from the break. Here we closed below that line. We could have gotten in on this break, one tick south of the close of this the wick of this candle, and followed it down to the most logical first target, the pivot point. Second target would have been this low. Obviously, we didn't make that. But again, you have this big wick here, or candle, and so we did what we've done. What have we done? The halfback move. Actually, the halfback move is from here to here. Again, let's just see if we can get that from this high to this low. Right there, you can see we did the halfback. So again, the decision zone. So we don't really have anything on any particular chart saying, oh yeah, this is going bearish or bullish, no question. Well, first of all, that's a dumb thing to say, because the markets, do what they want to do regardless of what we think they're going to do. But what we are seeing is that from the overnight session, quite a few moves on several of the major markets, and they're sitting right back at their 50% mark. So we kind of have to make a choice. Where do we want to go today to trade? Like I said, we do have news coming out at 10, and I got a feeling that's going to be what's going to happen there. The Russell, let's just zoom in on the Russell. I want to show this to you. Notice that we kind of have, this is one of Jeremy's diamonds. We have this line going up, then we have a line going down, line going down, line going up. This is telling us, though, that we are going into compression on the Russell. We do see that there's a squeeze on the Russell, but no direction indicated here. So let's see, what else have we got? Gold is on a squeeze on the 60. This is a tough one today, golly. Tough one indeed. Let's go with when in doubt. When you really are in doubt, I'm kind of liking gold, but I just don't know which way it's going to go. I think the ES is probably going to chop for a little bit today. The Russell does show a breakout is coming, but we don't have any idea which way it's going to go. Here we've got that 50% move back. Crude, now here's my concern about crude. You see this long, but this was just a slow grind up. This wasn't a big run for it wick. This was a slow grind up. And, Signet talked about this kind of stuff, that when you see these big run-ups, a lot of times you see a splat right back down. But, can we say that there is a possible 50% retrace here? Yeah, it's very possible. We are in a fair value gap. I am going to go ahead and take crude oil. I may be wrong on this one today, though. We did crude yesterday. We hit our major targets yesterday. I'm thinking that crude may come back and do the 50% retrace. That's the most clear thing that I'm seeing right now. Let's jump over to Trade of 8 then, and let's start marking up the chart. All right. Let's open this up. Let's get over to the crude chart. I've reset my account recently, so I'm working on the micros, but it's the same thing. One thing to bear in mind about crude micros, they don't have as much volume as a lot of the others do. So while it's fine to trade micros on crude, you don't want to go in here with 10, 20, 30 contract kind of thing, because it's just, you may not get filled exactly like you want. So let's go ahead and clear the drawings. let's start. I'm going to start with my profiles. I'm going to switch this to my VPOC markup. This is using, well, come on. This is using these indicators right here. And you can take a screenshot of that if you want. All right. So what I'm generally going to do here is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select a volume profile. And today we're not marking this up because we're doing daily profiles. So let's open this up and I want the 10-day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. What we see is that in the last 10 days, this line is where the highest amount of trades have taken place, right here, or the number of contracts. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put me a nice, big, fat line right here. I'm going to make it fat. And remember the quirk about Trade-O-Vate, you need to move one of the endpoints past your current date. I just simply do it by moving it to the year 2025 because of the look back problem at the 999 problem. 9999. Are there any other significant days? Now, again, this is the current one. We'll zoom into that in a moment. Sure, we've got this one right here. Right there. Again, moving that to the year 2025. Another one here. Notice these are all on the bearish side. I am going to mark out this high of day. Right here. Obviously we've broken it, but there are a lot of times that we will come back and revisit it. So I just kind of want to be aware of it. Let me make sure I've got it pretty close. Yeah, it looks pretty close. If we do a 180 and come out and take out that low, crude's just, that's improbable, so I'm not going to bother marking that low. All right, looking over here, they're in this area here. We've pretty much got our daily volume profiles marked. The significance of volume profiles is because it's such a popular trading area where people really liked the price there, and so they hovered there and they traded a lot there. Is that they act as magnets. They act as pretty big magnets, and so we are kind of interested to see what we do see it coming back to these magnet areas. All right, I'm going to switch profile. This is a slightly different, this is the built-in volume profile within Trade-O-Vate. And you see it just automatically colors it. The reason that I use two different ones, this one over here is only looking at what's happened today. And the one built into Trade-O-Vate can only look at what's happened today or the day. So here is yesterday's volume profile. Here is the day before, Friday. Here's Monday. This is where we are today. And I'm just going to drop in a couple quick lines. We see this line right here. Need to move that up. There we go. Since I'm already in the day, I don't have to adjust the date on this. Right here. Okay. This one here, But it's, well, yeah, we'll go ahead and mark it. There's no harm in it. Okay. Now, let's go down to the 15, and this is where I'm going to mark. I don't necessarily trade supply and demand, but I am going to mark it because I expect that there will be reactions there. So I'm on the 15, so I'm just going to, I'll go ahead and mark the bodies. So sort of somewhere in there. Turn that into array. And right about there maybe. Oh, forgot to click the button. Now the other thing I'm looking for is chop. And notice what this is right here. Look right here. Again, of course, this is the central, the 10-day volume profile, but notice all this chop in this area here. That tells me that if price comes back into this area, there's a good chance it's just going to choppity, 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 chop in here. Now, it's fine for this to be a target towards it, but it's a big range. But what I don't want to do is take a trade in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of going to expand this a little bit. I'm not going to catch the whole range, just where the core of it is from maybe here to here. We're going to call that sort of the core. I'm going to mark that blue. We'll turn that into an array. That is in yesterday's, so I will extend the date to make sure it shows up on my 1-minute chart. All right. So there. So now of course we still have good old-fashioned technical analysis. Let's just take a quick look at that. And for that, I'm going to go to blank. I'll turn everything off. We do see a possible 50% move back from here to here. We notice it's at the bottom of that blue zone. So it's just below the central pivot point, or this 10-day volume node. So that's all I kind of needed to know there. Let's back out. Let's do set. Now remember, oh man, I hate to do this. Tradeovate has got a huge problem about if you mark up on like I'm on the 15-minute, if I mark this up on the 15-minute with a diagonal line, this only applies to diagonals, it will be wrong most likely in the 5-minute or the 1-minute. It's a quirk with Tradeovate. Tradeovate is not really, Tradeovate looks like a fantastic platform, but it's a great trading platform, but I wouldn't say it's the best charting platform. The best charting platforms are going to be Thinkorswim and, of course, TradingView. I'm going to mark this because I'm going to keep this 15-minute window open. But we're going to mark from here to here. We're going to turn this into an array. Now we could also say from here to here, but the reason that I'm not marking this yet is this has not pulled back enough. So it could just be a slight pullback and then it runs on. This here had a nice pullback. This here's a fairly strong rejection. So I like this. And another thing to remember about trend lines is they are stronger on the higher time frames than they are on the lower. So the 15-minute, let's see, what else have we got here? Let's go further back, and I want to kind of see. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. The trend lines on the higher time frames, like the 15, has more authority, if you will, or is more respected than is going to be on the 1 minute. Just like your fair value or your supplies and demands. That's what Kevin tells me anyway. He is the master of supply and demand, so I will take his word for that because that's not my strategy. So I'm going to keep this 15 up here because I've got these lines marked out. I guarantee you they will not be correct over here on the 1 minute. They're just simply not going to be. So, okay, chart is marked up. Let's see. Let me check my little checklist. Understand the importance of a checklist. A checklist is a routine that you're going to go through. Oh, yes, supplies and demands. We need to do those. The checklist is something that you do every day. It's a ritual. It's a routine. It's something that you want to do because you're training your mind to look for these things to get yourself used to. Look what we've done here. We've pulled back right into this fair value gap. We do have another fair value gap down here, but we've already tapped into it. And so we have gone now twice into this fair value gap. I think we're going north here maybe. I could be wrong. See this little tiny minor trend line right here? See how we're kind of breaking that maybe? Now we haven't, understand, you have to close it. Let's just draw that in. Here to here. Let's draw that into a ray. This is weak on the 1 minute, but watch. First of all, when we have a trend line break, I'm looking for a close across the trend. It has to be a close, not a wick. Closes across. Two things will happen. Either A, the next candle will continue. What I prefer to see is a retest of that trend line, and then it continues back out, which Signet would call a Busby. We also call it a break, retest, bounce, BRB, same thing. We definitely seem to have some heavy volume going here. So I'm going to be watching this here to see what it goes. Going to be really curious about what happens here. What do we do here? If this is going to break this, I'm not going to mess with this until I see a close. I'm going to treat this just like a trend line. I want to see a close. I want to see a retest. I want to see a break out of it. Then, and only then, will I take it north. Can we go south here? Well, we've got this little trend line. It's still in effect. If we come back in, we close, we bounce, retest, and then we bounce. Yeah, we're going south. Everything here is a target. VWAP, that's my purple line. These volume nodes. Other targets are going to be significant lows where people would have their stops. Right here would be a good one. Maybe below here. We've got a lot of little candles here, so we don't have any really standing out stops. Looking to the upside, of course, we have plenty of stops sitting because we came up here, we rejected, so we've probably got a fair number of stops sitting right here. And that's why just because we close here, I don't want to necessarily call that a, we're going to just keep running kind of thing. I want to see that retest and then the bounce. That's me. All right, so we've got a couple ideas here. We'll just have to watch it and see what happens. Does anybody have any particular questions or anything like that? Just, I didn't get into the edge full reports, but if anybody's got any questions, holler out about that, and I'm going to go stick my head over here. You're welcome to voice in or type into the chat. Let's go look at edgeful real quick about, what are we on? We're on crude oil. And I tell you what I want to look at is the ORB after market opens. I'm going to use the 9:30 to 11 time slot because that's the time slot that we normally trade. I'm going to use the last 3-month average. I want to look at it by weekday. And we see that crude oil, the normal orb, says that 25, let's see, what are we on? The 15 minute, okay. So this will be from 9:30, 9:45 Eastern. We're looking a 25% chance that following 9:45 we will have a breakout to the upside. 50% of the time we'll break down. 25% chance we have a break up. So this would be a trade possibly to look for at 9:45 would be a break. We've got a higher probability of a break south. But again, these are statistics, and if you were with me last night in the initial balance trade, you know that we had this 70% chance we're going to do this. It's only going to break out to one side, and we watched it break both sides. Again, anytime you're looking at statistics, remember that we say there's a 50% chance, but there's also a 50% chance. 50% chance it's going to break down, but there's also a 50% chance that instead it breaks up or it double breaks. So remember, probabilities are never, ever, ever guaranteed by any means. So, you can help. You may look at this and say, well, maybe it helps my bias. But again, we still want to be careful of stuff like that. So, looky here. We may get this trade on before the market opens, which would be cool. Any questions? Nobody's hearing me? Hang on. Am I not? Why? Are you kidding me? I forgot to turn the damn voice on. Oh my God, I don't believe that. Well, it's in the YouTube. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I am so embarrassed. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry about that. Okay. Jeez. I wish I did not. I am so sorry about that, guys. So next time if I make a stupid blunder like that, somebody please DM me. I was so busy trying to set up this YouTube stream for the first time because I've never done that I completely forgot to come over here and clear the push to talk button. So I'm sorry. Any rate, what am I looking for here very quickly? Jeremy's coming on in just a minute. I'm looking at crude. We've got this fair value gap here. If we're going to go north, I would wait to see for a closure, not a wick, a closure. Outside of this, a retest of this zone, and then a break north to break that first closure. Wicks do not count. If it's going south, we have the 50% replay. God, this is so embarrassing. I'm so sorry, guys. We have this low, we have a high, and we have roughly a 50% halfback right here. Now, these yellow lines are volume profile lines. These are going to be magnet target areas. Yeah, these are going to be magnet target areas here. This blue is a choppity chop zone. Be careful. I would use this as a target, but I would not take a trade from it because of the fact, inside of it anyway, because of the fact it's a lot of chop. While I don't necessarily trade supply and demand, I do mark it to be aware of it. Also, these lines on the 15-minute chart show the overall trend lines. And remember that trend lines on higher time frames hold more weight than trend lines that like this one that I marked on the 1 minute. And remember too, as I said, if you're drawing a trend line diagonal on Trade-O-Vate, if it's more than 1 day, more than today, you have to come in and bump the date up. And then save it. And the reason being is Trade-O-Vate cannot look back but so far in time. And if you don't move an endpoint of that line into the present day or to the future, it will not show up on the minute or sub-minute chart. Okay, so we chose crude oil because of the everything else was showing that they had completed their halfback move. And so we're like, no real direction to call there. Crude was the only one that had not done a halfback. It could do a continuation north. If it does a continuation north, targets we would basically take and draw a fib of approximately this low to approximately this high. And we would look for a 50% move. We would also look for the pivot points. I don't have those turned on. Yeah, let me turn those on real quick. There's a strong pivot point right there. Now this is interesting. We are above the central pivot point. Look what just, if I can zoom in, look what just happened here. We broke R1 pivot point, retested it. This is what I'm talking about. Break, retest, bounce. If we get a close above this zone here, I might just take that long. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. We've got it's kind of looking, there's two arguments here. It's kind of looking bullish, but at the same time, we have gone over and stretched ourselves to the upside. So there's also a case to go south. We'll just have to watch it and see. Again, guys, I am sorry. Next time, if that should happen, please somebody send me a message and let me know that I have goofed up and I'm not streaming voice. Anyway, I hope that helps you guys today. And we'll turn this over to Jeremy. You guys have a good one. And if you have any questions, of course, you're always welcome to DM me or whatever, and that kind of thing. So, all right, I turn it over to Jeremy. Y'all have a good one. Bye.